And the guy at the top has one single journalist that he doesn't get along with, and he's on Twitter, his public social media, calling the guy biased. Like, that's where we are now with AEW, all emotional wrestling. I'll tell you what, man, if and when AEW fails, they will deserve it. Chest up, shoulders back. Welcome to Revival Wrestling. I have better wrestling takes than you, and you know it. But this channel, guys, I've debated on doing. I'm not sure how often I'll upload here, but I woke up this morning and saw more nonsense about Tony Khan. I'm just making breakfast right now. We're just kicking it here. I have to make this video. I'll give you guys a brief overview of my history watching AEW first, and then we're going to go into the Tony and Ariel Helwani beef. If you can even call it a beef, it's really just a petulant child getting upset. Anyway, you guys have probably seen what happened by now. Tony Khan tweeted and called Ariel, biased, I believe he said. And then Ariel clapped back and basically referred to him as the snowman, which if you guys don't know what he means, that's a play on words for the fact that Tony... But I think this stemmed from the fact that Ariel, I don't know if he's doing this full-time now or part-time or what it is, but he's doing reporting, like kind of floor reporting for WWE. I think he was at SmackDown. Whatever the case is, though, this is just another chapter in the ongoing saga of why Tony Khan is not cut out for this, being a wrestling promoter. And there's a lot of bad instances of him. I mean, the press conference, the media scrums, all the times he's there, and he's just getting over-talked by talent. He looks dazed and confused. He's scared. He's all freaked out. He's not a good booker, objectively. I mean, the company is not doing well ratings-wise. I haven't watched them regularly in over a year at this point. So like I alluded to at the beginning, whenever AEW started, I was all into it, right? Because I wanted them to succeed. I had the WWE fatigue, like a lot of people do. But you remember, right? Like Goldberg beating The Fiend and the Hell in a Cell match with Rollins, and it was a DQ. Those are the ones that pop out in my head, but I'm sure there was other nonsense as well. You know, Lesnar going over Kofi in 7 seconds on SmackDown, right? All this stuff. But I was like, okay, finally a new promotion, right? It looked really promising, and I wanted them to do well. And I would watch it every week. Like, I don't pay for cable myself, guys, but my parents are old boomers. They pay for cable. So I would use my parents' like login information to watch it live every week on TV if I had the time. And I was into it. I was following the stories. You know, you get exposed to a lot of new talent on AEW you wouldn't normally see. So I was kind of, it's cool. I was into it, right? And then go forward a bit, and I lost interest, as, again, the ratings would show. Most people do, because Tony can't book properly. He just doesn't know what he's doing. He's not cut out for this. And I know a lot of you guys might have mixed opinions on Jim Cornette, but whenever he describes Tony as a rich kid playing with his action figures, he's very correct. Tony is not cut out to do this job. He's not. And the thing is, too, he comes from extreme wealth. It's not like the guy's pressed for money. Okay, he could easily hire a booker. He could hire better writers. I'm not sure if AEW has a writer's room or what that entire situation looks like, but the point is, they have to change something. Because the storylines at this point are not captivating. MJF is the best part of the show on a weekly basis, and even his shtick starts to get kind of stale. Every feud he has is the same thing. Oh, I'm the evil rich kid. MJF is kind of like Tony Khan in that regard, except he just is the heel, right? Tony is like the baby face. But MJF, it's like, okay, you're going to jump through all these hoops to come fight me, and you're never going to do it. Then, you know, the baby face jumps through the hoops, and they fight him at the pay-per-view. You know what I mean? Even before MJF had the title, that was the case. But otherwise, what is happening on AEW TV that's remotely captivating? Moxley is completely out of shape. He's not believable. He's bleeding every time you see him. Hangman Page, they tried him as the champion. That project failed. Once again, Tony's booking did not help him. Omega is always attached to the young schmucks now. I don't hate the Young Bucks like a lot of people do, guys, but again, they're just very hard to believe as serious wrestlers. Just their physiques and how they look and the choreography and stuff. I believe Omega much more than them in that regard, because Omega's in very good shape. He's fast, he's agile, he can do a lot of at least believable looking things when he's not doing goofy stuff. But what is interesting on AEW TV at this point? Nothing. The roster is way too bloated. The production is amateur. I mean, they're catching guys blading on camera. Tony Schiavone's in the ring. He's like, hey, do you want to do an interview? Just hands the mic off and awkwardly walks away. Dude, I mean, there's just so much wrong with it. And again, the ratings reflect it. But it all goes up to the top, right? I mean, even in WWE's worst days, they're still a tightly run ship, very professional, production values off the charts, all this stuff. AEW doesn't even have all of those things going for it. You could cut 50 to 70% of the AEW roster right now, which that's a whole nother topic, the fact that Tony pays these jobbers an actual salary like they mean anything or anybody cares. You could eliminate 75% up to 75% of their current roster. It would not make a single difference. All right, Tony's like, oh, I'm going to shoehorn Wheeler Yuta, who last time he talked on a live microphone said MJF was hiding behind the firm. I mean, that guy has nothing going for him. He's never going to. It's not going to work. You could get rid of him. You could get rid of half of the Jericho Appreciation Society. All these random matches. Like, it's just incredible, dude. And Tony Khan strikes me as a good-hearted guy, right? He does not strike me as a bad dude. I think he genuinely wants to give all these wrestlers a steady income and work and all this stuff. But a lot of them don't deserve it. They're simply not that good at wrestling, man. I mean, they don't even understand fundamentals. AEW TV is like watching a training video on what not to do in a wrestling match. There's always botches. And I know the AEW fans will say, oh, but Big E got his neck broken. And, you know, guys, wrestlers are going to botch inevitably in any promotion. There's going to be injuries. The Big E thing is a freak accident. Ricky Starks also got his neck busted on AEW TV, right? I mean, the list isn't even comparable. It is what it is, okay? So if you guys can't tell, this is not going to be an AEW fanboy channel. You guys will make excuses for anything. But that's going to go into what the core of this video is about. Tony Khan, like MJF said in that one promo, he wanted him to fire him because he's an effing mark. He's a mark. He's a mark with a bunch of money doing... I haven't played WWE games in years. What is it called? Superstar mode or GM mode? That's what he's doing in real life. It's a cosplay. He's LARPing as this guy who's got all the answers. He's the perfect booker of the year. And that's the craziest thing about this whole beef with Ariel, right? Because Tony Khan objectively has wrestling media in his pocket. Most notably, Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez. Those two run cover for him every chance they get. They make every excuse in the book. What did Alvarez recently tweet? He's like, oh, you know, Moxley has that thing where it's like Lesnar. You hear his music and you know something big's going to happen. And then you show Moxley in the ring, just blading in the corner, you know, slinking around. He's completely out of shape compared to his WWE days. Once again, WWE makes their talent actually work out and eat remotely well. These AEW guys, you couldn't pick 9 out of 10 AEW wrestlers out of a crowd on a street. And I understand wrestling is not geared toward only the giants anymore, but these guys don't even have muscle, some of them. They barely look like they even exercise, and we're supposed to take them seriously as, like, threats. Adam Cole is a good example. He left WWE, he's in AEW, he's got 13-inch arms, uneven spray tan. He can talk a lot, but who is actually going to flip a channel on, or maybe an old wrestling fan and's like, wait, oh, this is the champion? But for somebody like Tony, who has media in his back pocket defending him, running cover for all of the errors in the company, the fact that he's going to have the gall to come out here and call Ariel Helwani a biased journalist. And you remember, too, they did that interview a while ago. I think it was after the Elite and Punk backstage brawl, all that happened. Tony wasn't giving Ariel a lot of answers then, right? And again, Ariel, he's doing his job, man. He was asking tough questions. He was kind of prodding him a little bit, and Tony was clearly uncomfortable because he's used to dealing with a bunch of paid-for stooges that ask him softball questions, right? And then he didn't like Ariel from that point. And now Ariel's doing his little SmackDown gig, and Tony, the guy who has media in his pocket, this biased journalist, have fun with it. I mean, come on, dude. And I'll say this, man, I mean, I could go on and on about Tony Khan, right? But I will say, I started out as a guy that wanted AEW to succeed and do extremely well and even beat WWE in the ratings. Well, that's certainly not going to happen. That is absolutely not going to happen. There's no chance. Even if by some miracle CM Punk does come back and they get a big ratings bump, they're still not going to beat WWE in the ratings. I mean, the Rampage ratings are abysmal. Dynamite, the most recent week, did what, 830,000 or something like that, which is noticeably down. That's what happens when you have a spoiled rich kid who doesn't know how to book at the top of your company, man. And again, right, he's never booked before. You can't expect him to be so good at it. But the AEW marks talk about him like he is so good at it. Every signing, oh, game changer, this and that, and oh, the perfect booker of the year, this feud is money. Nothing pans out in AEW. Because it can't pan out. Because they don't have the talent or the writing or the booking for anything to pan out. And this goes to show you how just stoogey and homey AEW is. Right, Tony Khan he has like 3 titles, right? Like the executive VP, head of creative, CEO, owner, whatever, all this stuff. This is the head and the face of your company publicly. And you're going to be on Twitter talking like some random internet mark. Biased journalism, have fun with that. Are you serious, dude? Again, that just shows you how unprofessional at the core this guy is. And he even knows it too, because, right, he knows the AEW drones are going to defend anything he says, like, that's right, Tony, go get him, ha ha ha. I cheer for anything you put in front of me. So as if the bad wrestling itself wasn't enough, now we have, I mean, this is becoming a recurring thing with Tony, right? Just publicity stunt. I shouldn't even call it a publicity stunt. It's just bad PR after bad PR. I went from a guy who started out wanting AEW to succeed, and I don't want to say that I want them to go bankrupt or to fail or anything, because, you know, there is some talent on their roster that I think deserve the opportunity, even though WWE should and probably will start poaching them once their contracts expire. But ultimately, if and when AEW fails or just goes on to exclusively on YouTube or some other tiny thing, they lose their TV deals, I'm not going to be upset. I'm not, because really they deserve it. The talent deserve it. They're sloppy. They evidently don't care very much. The management, I mean, the EVPs got into a fight with an employee backstage, right? And they were deemed as the good guys, and they have to come back to this illustrious return. The CM Punk thing's a whole nother video I could talk about, but either way, right? This is not how executive vice presidents of a company should be behaving. And then the guy at the top, it was going well. He rode the wave when it started, the novelty aspect. A few years in now, right? It's turning into what a lot of people predicted it would turn into. It's a glorified indie promotion. And the guy at the top has one single journalist that he doesn't get along with, and he's on Twitter, his public social media, calling the guy biased. Like, that's where we are now with AEW, all emotional wrestling. I'll tell you what, man, if and when AEW fails, they will deserve it. And they do deserve it. I don't know for how long exactly Tony is going to do this, because he also has the Jaguars and I think Fulham FC, the soccer football club in Europe or whatever. I don't know how much longer his dad's going to just fund this, because I'm sure AEW is operating very close to the margin. They might be at a loss this entire time. The video game is still delayed, all this other stuff. So, Tony Khan, you brought this on yourself. You are not cut out for this. Please hire somebody else.